Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm here with Vicky, who is a passionate educator and healer on a mission to make freedom from health sabotage, anxiety, alcohol, and food addiction simple and sustainable for life. She's been in the world of fitness, health, and wellness for over 32 years. She's an integrative health, nutrition, and lifestyle coach who specializes in addiction elimination using science, psychology, and neurology-based principles, as well as her own personal experience of eliminating her own issues with food, exercise, and alcohol. And today, she's here to talk to us about health sabotage, addiction, or habit. Welcome, Vicky.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here, and welcome everybody who's listening and watching. Pen and papers at the ready. Hopefully you'll take some nuggets away with you today.
Absolutely. I'm sure they will. I've been excited to chat with you. So let's just dive right in. Yeah. What is health sabotage?
So when I refer to health sabotage, I mean those things that we do that stop us from doing the stuff that we say we're going to do. So January is a prime example, isn't it, of people setting intentions, or I hate the word. I'm not even going to use it. So I'm going to say intentions or goals. And we go, you know, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to eat more healthily, I'm going to cut down on my drinking, and and we have this set idea of what we're going to do, and then we don't do it. And we tell ourselves that it's our fault, we're weak-willed, or we just need to start again on Monday or after the weekend or after the. So it's the stuff that gets in the way of you doing what you know you want to do and say you're going to do, in terms of increasing how you feel about yourself within your own skin, but you just can't quite do it.
Yeah, so a lot of our folks in our community say they struggle with motivation and willpower and, you know, exactly what you just said. So, you know, what is it about willpower that keeps people stuck?
So willpower is a really interesting one, because we kind of think of it as something that we can kind of pick up off the shelf, right? But it's not a tangible thing. I always think of willpower being a little bit like electricity. You know it's there, but you can't actually see it, feel it, or touch it. And what we do know is that over the day, our willpower will diminish. And the biggest thing that decreases our willpower is the amount of decisions that we have to make. So by the time, usually people tend to indulge in what I call health sabotage activities, like automatically opening a beer when they get in from work, or sitting and watching a movie and starting on that multi-pack of snacks that were supposed to be for the weekend. And that happens because your willpower, if you like, your willpower battery's just been drained. And so we go into automatic behaviors, which are nothing to do with willpower. You'll have done the behavior before, and your brain remembers it because it helped you to either feel relaxed or to switch off, or it was a signal that this is your time to do your thing. And so the brain says, hey, do that, because it works. And it does. The problem is then what we do is the next day we're even more determined that we're not going to repeat that behavior. And when we wake up, we mean it. We have every intention of following through today with what we said we were going to do yesterday. But guess what? The more decisions you make, the more choices you have to make, the more your willpower is going to diminish. And it's usually because we are not aware of the thousands of decisions that we do make during the day.
Yeah. So how do you kind of keep your willpower battery fueled throughout the day?
So planning, and I know it's really tedious and I know it's really boring, and people go, I haven't got time to plan because planning takes time. It's like, okay, plan, time to plan. Because if you know what you're going to eat because you've planned it in advance and you've pre-prepared it, if you have some kind of a homemade cordial or whatever that's already chilled in the fridge, so when you open it, it's the first in the face, you're more likely to reach out for that. And so planning is the most important thing, especially when it comes to what drinks are available to you and what foods are available to you, and starting to know your vulnerable times. So if it is coming home from work and you have a routine or a pattern or a habit of walking through the door and going straight to the fridge, then make sure that in the morning, whatever is the eye line in the fridge is what you want to be eating or drinking when you get home. So it's not necessarily about tricking your brain. It's just about being prepared and knowing that if you've got the right stuff available to you and you can see it, you will utilize it. But if you've also got the wrong stuff, you'll have that. So
that's interesting. It's really, I like, just in my own life, I notice the days that I don't plan my food out are the days that I kind of go off to some of those old bad habits. And it was funny, I was just telling my husband the other day, is like, oh, when I don't plan my food, it's just, you know, it's just kind of a disaster. And it's
what
true.
We tend to do, and it's a lot of people think, well, planning takes too much time and too much effort, but it's like anything, and especially if you're a beginner, just plan, don't go mad. This is where we make a mistake, and this is where willpower really does let us down, because if you have set New Year's resolutions or a lot of goals and intentions, and you've got a list, you know, of 6 or 7 things, it's too much. It's just too overwhelming. There's too many decisions to make on too many different things. If you're going to train, are you going to the gym? Is it going to be a home workout? Are you going to do a class? Are you going to go with a friend? Are you going to go on your own? That's just one bit. So there's a lot of decisions to make. So what I would say to people is, pick the thing that you think for you is the thing that's going to make the biggest difference. So if energy and weight are a big issue for you, then you definitely need to look at your food choices and your habits. If getting fitter and stronger and feeling more flexible and able to move pain-free is the most important thing for you, then look at, what exercise do I enjoy and where am I at right now? What actually can I implement that's not challenging? And this is the problem. We make it too challenging, we're not going to enjoy it. The brain goes, don't like this, don't want to keep doing it, rather sit down and watch telly. So this is where letting you, I would say to people, give yourself some space and some time to actually ask yourself some questions. What do I like doing when it comes to exercise? Is it the word exercise that puts you off? Because if it is, change it. I rarely talk about exercise with my clients. I talk about moving your body, because we've got associations and perceptions of what exercise looks like, and we think it has to be an hour, and we think we have to sweat. Right? Doesn't have to look like that at all. But allowing yourself to look at things slightly differently means you take the pressure off, which means then you don't need to make so many decisions. Maybe you just want to put on the radio or Spotify or iTunes and pick a couple of songs and just move to begin with, you know. So that's what I say to people. When we're trying too hard, we make it too complicated. Make it flow, make it easy, and guess what? Then it becomes fun. Then you want to do it again.
Yeah, and again and again and again, and then it becomes kind of one of those habits, right?
Right. And when we look at habits, you know, is it a habit? Is it an addiction? And this is something that does crop up quite a lot. When does a habit become an addiction? Well, it's all about how you feel and how you function. So no one sets out to be addicted to anything, and yet most of us are addicted to our phones.
Oh boy.
Most people don't want to admit it. But if I took most people's phones away from them and said, you cannot have it all day, there would be a sense of discomfort and not quite knowing what to do with myself when I've got a few spare minutes, and where will I get my hit of banal comparisonitis to look at, right? So we are addicted to it. But this word addiction is something that people don't like because of the associations, the stigma, the connotations. But as human beings, If I change that word to you have a habit of picking up your phone 122 times a day, which is something like the number that we do, it's ridiculous how many times we pick it up. If we change it to the word habit, suddenly now it doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah.
And we feel happier to change a habit. So a habit is just something that we repeatedly do. It then becomes so familiar that it becomes automatic. What happens oftentimes when people are binge drinkers or emotional eaters and drinkers, they don't set off with the intention of spending the evening binging. It's just that they open the fridge or they go to the drinks cabinet and they're almost on automatic pilot, so that the bottle's in their hand or the food is in their hand or they're already chewing it and drinking it before they've even twigged that that's what's happening, because it's such a familiar pattern. There's no thought process behind it. And to kind of put that into context, it's a bit like if you drive a car and if you take the same trip from work to, right, you're at home and you go, oh, I don't even remember how I got here.
Yeah.
Because you know the road so well, you know where the traffic light, you're not actually consciously there 100%. So it's the same thing. And that's just because we've repeated it so many times. When it becomes an addiction, it means that we feel we can't function well without that habit. Right. And that's pretty much the distinction. So if it's just a habit that's not an addiction, we can quite easily swap it for something else. There'd be a bit of discomfort, it'll feel a bit weird, right? But we'd be able to do it. For somebody who is definitely addicted, the feeling is hard to describe. It almost feels like there's a hole, there's an emptiness, there's a physical discomfort that you can't even describe to somebody, and it feels so uncomfortable that your brain tells you just need to do the thing. Or you just need to drink. So that's really the kind of the distinction. But once we recognize that, whether it's a habit or whether it's an addiction, if we've got a powerful enough reason to want to not do it anymore, it's actually not that hard to change it. And this is where the stigma comes in, because everybody's like, change is hard. It's not. It's really not. Okay. But because we hear it and we see it and it's written down, and the amount of stuff I see on TikTok and on Twitter, on Instagram, it's change is difficult, change is hard. And it's as hard as you want it to be. It's also as easy as you want it to be, because it's about how we choose to look at it. And if I want to change a habit, instead of me deciding it's going to be hard, I can tell myself it's going to be different. It might feel slightly different. Can I live with different?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes back to kind of knowing where you're at and setting sort of like realistic goals, right? And knowing where to start, instead of having those like six goals or 6 resolutions in the new year. Like what is a bit more realistic?
And I think the tricky bit is for beginners, particularly if this is a whole new journey for them, is, well, where do I start? And we're human beings. So if we don't know where to start, we don't start.
Right.
We just keep doing what because it's comfortable and it's easy. And our brain is designed to keep us alive. It's designed to keep us safe. So your brain thinks that whatever is a habit that's familiar, that's comfortable, you need to do that to keep you safe. So the discomfort comes when you're doing something different, that the brain goes, ooh, this is not familiar. Therefore, this is danger. I might get eaten right? Or I might die, which we won't. But it's the same stress response. So we automatically feel a sense of discomfort, maybe a slight sense of anxiety, maybe a little bit of fear, because it's new and it's different and it's unknown. And when it comes to starting off as a beginner, I would say to people, having a conversation with a coach is a really good idea, to just get some clarity on where you're at. Because When you follow somebody else's plan, it's great for them, but they're not you. They don't have your job. They don't have your family. They don't have your programming. They don't live in the same environment as you. They don't have the same time frame and space available to plan food or to prep food or to work out or whatever it is that you're choosing to do. So ask yourself some questions like, what is the biggest thing for me that I'm struggling with at the minute, that if I could wave a magic wand, what do I think would help me to feel better? So for many people, they go straight to diet and exercise and food. But it may well be that actually you're eating at all kinds of erratic times, or you're eating on the go. And so the first thing that you need to do would be to start to eat more regularly and space your meals out, because that will help you to feel more in control of your appetite, not have great big mood swings and energy dips, and you'll be able to think better, make better decisions, which just that all on its own would be where a lot of people need to start. You know, one of the things that a lot of women don't do, because of intermittent fasting and what they might have read in that it's very a helpful way to lose weight and blah, 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 is that they skip breakfast, but then they wonder why in the afternoon they can't function without a coffee or an energy drink or a muffin or something. And it's like, well, actually, if you just had something at sort of 9 or 10 o'clock, you wouldn't get that in the afternoon. But we're not taught to look at what we do in the morning affects how you function later on in the day and how you sleep. So this is the thing when we talk about, you know, the 4 pillars: sleep and stress, hydration, so important. But then the stories that you're telling yourself in your head, the beliefs that you have about what you are able to do. And for most people, we are capable of doing so much more than we think we can. But we go about it in the wrong way. And so when you speak to a coach and you start with the right stuff and you recognize that it's making a difference, and actually it's not a massive change and it's not that hard, then you're ready to take the next step. Then you've got confidence in your ability and your capability of doing things slightly differently, which suddenly increases your own belief in yourself and your own confidence to go, okay, do you know what? I'm going to give this a try. I don't know how it's going to feel, but hey, didn't know how that was going to feel, and it's pretty good. So let me give this a go. When we start getting excited about the journey, instead of thinking, oh, it's going to be a slog and I'm going to have to do this amount of training sessions and I'm going to have to have a leg day and I'm going to have a this day. And, stop. Pull it right back. You know, are you getting 8 hours sleep a night? Are you eating on a regular basis? Are you hydrating yourself? Because that's huge. Absolutely huge.
Just drinking enough water and getting enough sleep, it can make a massive impact.
Right. And here's the thing. We say just, but they should be the top 2 things. Because without them, everything else, you're almost trying to play catch up. Because you're never going to function optimally if you're not hydrated. Your body just cannot. And if your body, and when I say body, I mean your brain as well, because last time I looked, my head is attached. It's not separate under my arm. So when we talk about mental health and physical health, it's like, what? It's health. It's just health. But if my brain's not functioning well, it's not going to be sending great messages to my neurotransmitters via my nervous system. So my mood's going to be all over the show. And I'm probably likely to pick up on foods that are going to help to lift my mood and give me a bit of a dopamine hit, but it's going to sap my energy. And so then I don't feel like I want to do exercise because I'm like, I don't want to do anything. So this is where hydration and sleep are where I would start with everybody. And then looking at your blood glucose levels, how regularly are you eating? And crucially, For most people, it's not necessarily what you're eating. Yes, that's important. But if you're eating on the run, if you're eating at your desk, if you're not focused on tasting the food, chewing the food slowly, if you're in a state of anxiety because you're watching the clock, or you're in a meeting and you're trying to talk, your body cannot, it's impossible to break the food down and access the nutrients fully. It just can't do it, because you're not giving it the opportunity to go into what we call that cephalic phase of digestion, which is the phase before you even eat anything. It's the phase where we anticipate food, where we smell it, we see it, we getting ready to sit down in a calm state, and the body then goes, aha, food is imminently on its way. Yeah. Let me make some acid to break it down. Let me send the messages for the body to release all of the enzymes that will break down the protein and the fat that's coming my way. If you're grabbing on the go, that's not happening. And if you haven't got the enzymes and you haven't got the acid to break the food down, guess what? You get bloating, you get reflux, you get fluid retention, and you think that there's something wrong. Yeah. Well, sit down, slow down, eat without distraction, and guess what? Your energy will go through the roof. You will feel more focused. And if you feel better and more energetic, by default, probably going to want to move your body a bit more. Yeah. So it's a knock-on effect. And what we tend to do is focus on the wrong stuff. So we go straight to exercise, straight to food, instead of hydration. Am I eating regularly? Am I missing meals? Right? And am I kind of going for foods that are easy to grab because I'm telling myself I don't have time, but my weight's increasing and I'm feeling worse and worse. So this is where reevaluating, what are we doing? How are we feeling? Without judgment, just going, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, without judgment. That's a big one. That is a big one, because, you know, I spoke about stress being huge, and stress, the biggest stressor is from the thoughts that we think about stuff that's not even happened yet. Because our brain likes to make stuff up. Yeah. Right. And we what if, and we procrastinate on things because we want to get it right. Yeah. We haven't actually done anything yet, right? But we're already in a state of stress. And this is where we make really bad decisions when we're stressed. We absolutely do. Stress will stop your body from burning fat really well. And so this is where, again, look at the type of exercise that you're choosing, especially as a beginner, because if you're trying to go from couch to 100 miles an hour, hitting the gym 3 or 4 times a week, you are actually creating more stress that's more detrimental than if you took it a lot slower. But because people think, well, more is better, which it isn't, and I've got an episode on my podcast about this, then we kind of fall into this trap of, I want to get fit, I want to do it fast. So if I go to the gym 5 times a week and spend an hour and a half, I'll get there faster than if I go once a week, learn how my body moves, increase my strength gradually, right? People see that as the slow lane, but it's a little bit like the tortoise and the hare. Yeah. If you take the path that works with your body and with your mind, you're going to get where you want to go and probably surpass it much faster. Because if you hit it too hard, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, your brain says, don't do that, I don't like it, it hurts, stop it. Yeah. So what do? Go back to doing nothing. Yeah. Until you decide to get back on it again. Right. Then you repeat the process. Yes. Yes. Whereas if you just continued with the slow, steady progress of building up as your body's ready for the next level, right, you'd be where you wanted to be in the same time frame and probably less. Yeah. But this is the human brain, isn't it? And this is social media that says, you know, get a bikini body in 7 days.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right. Well, and I know you're also passionate about gut health, and there's been studies that show moderate exercise is more beneficial for gut health, and you know, our gut health impacts everything.
Yeah. And this is not new stuff, but it's now become more accessible to people, and I think people understand it more, and they're more familiar with terms like the gut microbiome and things like probiotics and things and that sort of stuff. And they understand that when our gut functions well, our brain functions well. And there's this massive nerve called the vagus nerve, which connects everything. So your brain stem, the vagus nerve is kind of behind your ear, near to that brain stem, and it goes through your heart, through your liver, through your lungs, into your gut. And in your nervous system, and obviously I'm not going to go into the science of it, but most people understand that there's kind of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system. But then you've got the vagal and the dorsal and the ventral vagus part of different bits. And what we don't necessarily understand is, but we kind of do, but we don't, is that our gut does affect everything. Particularly if you're excited about something, you can feel that you kind of get a sensation in your stomach, can't you, of anticipation, right? If you're scared, can almost feel like somebody's wringing out your gut. You feel your emotions in your gut. And that affects the neurotransmitters that get made. It affects the hormones that get made. And we used to believe that things like the main neurotransmitters that we talk about, serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, and GABA, we used to think that they were made in the brain. No, they're not. They're made in your gut.
Yeah, I find it quite fascinating, actually. We could probably talk for hours just about the gut, but it really is quite fascinating. And I think, I think you're right. People are starting to focus a bit more on gut health. It's getting to be a bit more accessible and mainstream. But, even like we have that saying, like, oh, I have a gut feeling about it. Yeah.
And we say it, don't we? But we don't really make that connection being the mental and the physical connection that it actually is. And this is where, our gut knows what we like, but we've been taught, and this is social conditioning, and it's from decades and decades. I'm talking about, great grandparents type of decades, not necessarily before that, because we were much more in touch before all of the medical health system, and Carnegie got his hands on it. Before that all changed, people understood about utilizing plants to help you to heal. They understood about the power of roots and various herbs and putting things together, because the body is designed to heal itself, and it absolutely is. But we, over the centuries, because of technology, because of social conditioning, because of speed and time and busier lives, we've been taught to seek a quick fix if we feel something's not working right. And if you think about it, and I remember this as a kid being at school, there would sometimes be children who would get a tummy ache after eating. And what were they told? Oh, just ignore it, it'll go away.
Yeah.
So we get told to ignore what our body is signaling to us.
Yeah.
Or, I've got a bit of a headache, go and take a pill.
Yeah.
So the message is push those signals to one side, ignore them. So we've tend to have lost connection with what our body is actually telling us. So when it comes to our gut function, so a lot of people have issues with their gut, which potentially years ago, but because they ignored the signals, because the parents said, don't worry about it, be fine, right? They never really twigged that their body was trying to tell them that maybe it was intolerant to certain things, maybe it struggled breaking down certain foods. And so actually, one of the main things that I help my clients to do, particularly my clients who have issues with anorexia and bulimia and body image, is to actually really try to learn to reconnect to the signals that their body is giving them, and start to get to know, what is it telling me? Because our gut is a really good clue, but we also get clues in our throat, in our shoulders. And so where we're feeling certain sensations, it's pretty much a clue as to what's going on up here and what's worrying us.
Yeah.
When it comes to the gut, I mean, people are understanding a little bit more, I think, that your immune system, 70% of it is housed in your gut. So if you want to avoid COVID and flus and all of the wonderful viruses that are mutating massively, right, we have got to look at, what are we putting inside our bodies? And unfortunately, alcohol annihilates your gut lining. Yeah, and leaky gut is something that, you know, because of my history, I didn't really understand fully, not like I do now, until I got my diagnosis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And understanding that leaky gut, because of my alcohol dependence and my bulimia and my addiction to laxatives and all of that good stuff, completely wrecked my gut lining. And so when stuff gets through that lining into spaces that it shouldn't be, and particularly things like gluten, which have molecular mimicry to thyroid, then you start to recognize, okay, it makes sense that I've got an issue with my thyroid. But these are the things, unfortunately, your GP is not going to help you to connect and put together. And it's not because they don't know it, although a lot of them don't, but it's because they don't have the time to be able to offer you a protocol and a strategy and a way of helping yourself, because their hands are tied with what they're allowed to do and not do and what they can help you with. And so we back to, you know, drugs and quick fixes, which for your people who are listening now, just beginning to get to understand your own body is a really good starting place. It's the best.
So, and we probably have touched on this a little bit already in our conversation, but, you know, you talk a lot about 4 steps to freedom. So can we dive into that a little bit and kind of like, what are those steps?
Right. So the most important thing to remember is that there are the steps that everybody needs to take, and we need to look at the basics. So what are our values and beliefs? That has to be key. And oftentimes it's not something that we sit down and spend the time actually looking at, because we just go through life going, oh, well, I believe this and I value that. And it's like, actually, do you though? Is it even yours? Because oftentimes the beliefs that we have are not ours. They're our parents or our teachers or our pastors, or, you know, or we pick them up from friends or whatever. So looking at your values and your beliefs is the first thing, and being honest and going, is that even true? And if it's true, is it helpful? Right? If it's not true, can I let it go? So that's the first thing to be able to do. The next thing then is to look at your own associations and interpretations of language and words that you use. So, because the words that we think or the words that we speak are the things that program ourselves and our habits. And the more we repeat the same stuff, the more we reinforce it, the more we believe that it's true. So looking at the words that you use and looking at what are your associations with those words. Addiction being a classic. You know, what do we immediately think of when somebody hears that word addict? And I can guarantee you that a lot of human beings have the same picture appearing in their head of some kind of down and out, a bit disheveled, right, on the street. Where have we got that image from? TV, films. So looking at what are our perceptions and our interpretations of things. And then the next thing to do is look at how much do I actually know the true me.
Ah.
Yeah. Because we do stuff and we say stuff, but when you've picked away and honestly looked at your values and your beliefs, and you've recognized that you're saying stuff that actually isn't true and you really don't believe it, then you can start to look at yourself and go, okay, so who am I actually? And that's the bit that people get a little bit scared of, because when you're letting go of an addictive habit, whether it's food, alcohol, shopping, it doesn't really matter what it is, there's this fear of, well, who will I be and how will I function without this thing that I thought made me who I am and allowed me to live the life that I'm telling myself is okay. So suddenly we have a bit of an identity crisis going on. But that's where the fun comes in, because the last pillar then is when you start to recognize all of us have light and dark. There's bits in all of us that we don't like, right? Because we're human beings. We are judgmental, right? We just are. And if anybody tells you they're not, they're a liar, or they're not a human being. Because we all judge, because we have to. It keeps us alive. Yeah. Right? We have to judge, is this a safe environment? Does that person pose a threat to me? Yeah. Right? How am I going to hold myself if I'm in a dark space and somebody with a hood on and I can't see their face, who is like 6 foot something, comes near me? I need to make a snap judgment. Am I going to go, hi? Probably not. Right? I'm probably going to get hell out of there as quickly as possible, because I made that judgment immediately. So we all judge, but we judge ourselves so much more harshly than we think other people judge ourselves. So when I ask people to look at their identity, it's looking at things like, are you a people pleaser? Are you somebody who is looking to others to give you validation for who you are? Whether it's size, whether it's intelligence, whether it's materialistic, the house that you live in or the car that you drive. Are you always looking for somebody to give you that pat on the back and say, hey, yeah, well done? Or actually, are you quite strong and powerful knowing your own worth? Because that's going to affect the decisions that you make, the people that you hang out with, and ultimately your current identity. Yeah. But then the last pillar is the fun pillar, because what we get to recognize is you can create yourself to become whoever you decide you want to be. Yeah. You just have to decide, what are my values from now on? What am I believing, right? What actually makes me feel good? Can I treat myself with compassion? Can I let go of the behaviors that kept me perpetuating the health sabotage because I told myself I was weak-willed and not good enough? Yeah. So this is where all of those things together will help you to actually become the person that you always were before you got programmed by society. Yeah. And parents and school and comparisonitis and all of that stuff. Social media. Yeah. Well, yeah, but even before then, if you know, let's think about how the schooling system works. And don't get me started on the schooling system. That's a whole other story. But we teach our children to compare themselves to others from being tiny kids, right? From being really, really tiny. We get them to, you know, oh, can you, what age were they when they spoke? Oh, well, mine was, you know, X month, right? Parents are doing it all of the time. You know, oh, your child's 4 and they can't tell the time yet. Judgment. I know. Boom. I mean, from birth, it's crazy. I have a 7-month-old and it's crazy how it's like, oh, is she doing this yet? Right. Right. And so this is where you should, you must, you ought to, right? And we programmed with this. And what I invite the people I help, because most of the clients I work with have issues either with body image or anxiety or just confidence. And they are using things like alcohol and food to feel better in the moment. Not because they're stupid, not because they haven't got any willpower. It works. Yeah. Right? All right, so they're not stupid. Because the brain's going, hey, that works, do it again.
Yeah.
The problem is that over time, the consequences from a health point of view of repeatedly doing that don't feel great. And this is where we want to change. But nobody's an idiot who is a food addict or an addict in anything, right? We're all pretty sensible, smart human beings whose brains go, that's not comfortable, do something that makes you feel better. It's not rocket science. So what I ask people to do is let's look at other stuff that can help you to feel better that's not those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is exercise one of those? Absolutely. If you don't go crazy and become addicted to that high.
Yeah.
Which is something that, you know, potentially you can do. But things like exploring and getting curious about what actually does light me up. And oftentimes I work with people who didn't even know that they liked doing things until they gave themselves the opportunity to look over there instead of being in this tunnel vision of this is what you do, this is what you should do. You know, if you are this kind of middle-aged person in a white middle-class kind of suburban background, you are the member of a squash club or a golf club. It's just like, get over it, right?
Yeah.
How about you like doing life drawing, or you like gardening, or you like building things? Give yourself the opportunity to try stuff that actually lights you up, lets your brain switch off and almost numb out without that chemical hit from alcohol or from food. So those are the kind of the pillars that I help people to look at, and it's about having fun with it and trying stuff and going, well, that was weird, or that was really good, or that was awful, I don't want to do that again. And this is where, when you're confident and you feel okay, and take away this idea that there's a right way and there's a wrong way, there's just a way.
Yeah.
And we take away this idea that change is hard. It just may be different, and it might feel a bit uncomfortable, but actually it's quite fun. If you give yourself the opportunity to find the fun in it, we change the way that we view things, then the way that we view things changes.
I like that. So tell us about your free gift that you're giving our viewers. And
so my free gift is actually for people to have a conversation with me, because if you are a beginner and you have no idea where to start on your journey of transformation, and you're just like, well, I want to do this and I want to do that, and blah, 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 right, have a conversation. So that is my free gift, if you like, that is just open, and there's no time frame on that whatsoever. Just have a conversation, connect with me either on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Any of those three platforms tend to be the ones where I'm going to see your message and I'm going to answer you. But I actually have a kind of a little PDF handout as well that people can grab. So the best way to get that is to either send me an email and say, hey, I want my PDF, which is helping you to let go. And it's the 3 key first steps to letting go of the diet mentality and the kind of the binging mentality and the on it, off it mentality. So I give you 3 key things to really focus on that will help you to recognize that it's not about willpower, and it's a lot easier than you think. So that is the kind of little PDF giveaway. But also, if people want to sign up to my newsletter, I often put like videos on there and little downloadable things. So my newsletter sign up, if they go onto my Instagram, it's on my Linktree link. They can just connect and sign up for the newsletter on there.
Fantastic. And Vicky will have your Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn below this video as well. So it's easy for people to click and get connected with you that way.
What I will say as well is I've got a book coming out very soon. So I will be giving away some free are on my email list, then they will get first dibs of the prize draw to get a free book.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, anything else you want to share before we say goodbye?
I think what I'd like to leave people with is if you know that you do, or you suspect that you do have an issue with food addiction or alcohol problems, and you feel that there's something wrong with you and guilty and ashamed about reaching out or speaking about it, and maybe you think you're flawed or you're just a bit weird, you're not. You're not. There's nothing wrong with you, and you are not broken. So you don't need fixing. But what you probably do need is a conversation with somebody who gets how you feel, who can help you to take the first steps to making some changes that are not overwhelming.
Yeah.
And if that's me, fantastic. If it's somebody else who does similar, but please know that we're not all out there to judge you. And you are not broken, and you are not flawed.
Well, what a lovely message to end things on. Thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you.
And just keep doing the awesome work that you're doing, folks, because it's just so helpful for people to start out on this journey of self-discovery and wellness, because we all need to take care of our own health. It's so important.
So important. Yeah, absolutely.